Greetings, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you today. My name is Lori McNeill, and I'm honored to be a presenter at the Global Sustainable Development Summit 2022. As you may already know, I'm here today to talk about decoding an organizational change management framework for sustainability. The audience here today is comprised of leaders primarily in small to medium-sized businesses from around the world. Thousands will be tuning in to watch this and other presentations. That's a great thing because what I'm asking of you might seem scary or overwhelming, but the good thing is that if everyone watching will take action, change can and will happen. And guess what? All of those combined efforts will have major impact. As you already may know, sustainable development is a guiding principle for achieving human development goals while preserving natural systems' capacity to provide the natural resources and ecosystem services that the economy and society rely on. You might also be aware that the United Nations developed 17 global sustainable development goals in 2015 with the goal of achieving them by 2030. There has been some progress. We're obviously not there yet, and we only have basically about 7 more years to achieve them, considering that we're at the very end of 2022. And obviously there have been some setbacks that have taken place along the way with COVID, the war in Ukraine, and other challenges that we faced as a society. That doesn't mean that they won't be achieved, but that's going to take the help of everyone here. So let me go ahead and remind you what those 17 global sustainable development goals are in case you don't already know. No poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation and infrastructure, reduced inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water, life on land, peace, justice, and strong institutions, partnership for the goals. Can you imagine a world if all of those goals are achieved? I can, and it makes me very excited. It also creates a sense of urgency, understanding that 2030 is going to come at us pretty fast. Now, for the UN to reach the global sustainable development goals and for all citizens of the world to benefit from the achievement of those goals being met, change must occur. I have to emphasize that. This will not happen naturally. There must be intention for us to achieve that. I understand these are lofty goals, but they are necessary, they are doable, and they require change. That's where all of you come into play and why you must take action. Now with change, all of us, I think, have experienced it in one form or another, whether that's personally or professionally. And each of you may understand that change can be hard for a variety of reasons. In this particular instance, I'm going to talk about the 6 biggest challenges. Number 1, there's a general lack of awareness and knowledge about these 17 SDGs. Also, there's a lack of understanding why these goals matter. There's a lack of accountability, a lack of urgency, a lack of vision, and the 6th and final is a lack of action. Now let's take each one of these challenges and talk about the solutions, because I'm not here just to make this seem like an impossible task. I want to give you hope, and mostly and most importantly, I want to inspire you to take action. So let's talk about the solution that's going to go along with each one of these challenges to overcome the change. First, let's talk about the lack of awareness. What you can do is educate yourself and those around you. There are lots of resources for you to find out more about the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, specifically the UN website. There's also TED Talks about the goals. There's even an app called the SDGs in Action. I'm sure there are also a plethora of articles, books, podcasts, blogs, you name it, whatever media channel there might be, I'm sure you can find information on it. There might even be a TikTok about it. Who knows? I haven't looked that one up yet. But even if you can name each of the 17 goals, do you have a clear understanding of what each one of those means more in depth? I know what most of them mean, but I can tell you personally, I need to go ahead and do a little bit deep dive research into a few of those just to make sure that I'm really clear on the meaning of each one of them. And this leads right into the second challenge, which is a lack of understanding why these goals matter. As a leader of an organization, as an employee, as a citizen of the world, you should be asking, why do these goals matter to the world, to your country, to your local community, to your industry, to your family, and to future generations? What we do as individuals and collectively as a group matter. Actions have consequences. Also, anytime there's the big, audacious, lofty goals, what tends to happen? Well, that's the third challenge, a lack of accountability. Sometimes people might be saying, I didn't create the problem. It's not mine to solve. Well, these are goals and challenges that affect all of us. Why? Because we're all human. Also, because we only have one planet. We are one society. We are accountable to one another. Some people might be thinking, will anything I do as an individual, as a small to medium-sized business, really have an impact? And the answer is yes. It may seem like a heavy burden and too much to take on, but one of my favorite quotes applies in this situation. Many hands make a heavy load light. So be accountable. What you do matters. Each one of us has control over our actions. And although we may not control what the other person next to us does, we may be able to control not only our own actions, but possibly we can influence the actions of others, even though we might not be able to exert control. Now, the fourth challenge I mentioned is a lack of urgency. And what this means is a delay to solve problems or take action has never improved a situation. The longer we wait, the harder it will be to achieve these goals, and the worse off we will be as a society. Don't wait until the first of the year or next month or next week even. Start today. Educate yourself and those around you, then make it a priority, and do so now. The sooner we take action, the sooner we will see an impact, which could improve conditions, save lives, and become closer with one another. The fifth challenge that I mentioned is a lack of vision. Once you begin to gain a better understanding of the goals, what they are, why they are important, you may start to gain a better vision for you, for your business, for your industry, your country, and our world. The vision is seeing how our lives, how our actions are interconnected. Your primary role as a leader is to cast a vision for others to follow. They must know what you and your company stand for in order for them to follow you. A common mistake in times of change is that individuals overestimate what they have and underestimate what they may gain by implementing change. Your task as a leader is to help your stakeholders understand the importance and bigger picture of the change necessary to achieve the sustainable development goals that you and your companies represent. The sixth and last challenge, which is one of the most important and what I want to emphasize for everyone here watching, is to take action. I mentioned a moment ago that actions have consequences, but guess what? Inaction also has consequences. As a leader, you have an opportunity to choose one of the 17 sustainable development goals. Perhaps you'll focus on a few of the 17, or you'll be very ambitious and you'll focus on all of these areas for your business. Now, it may not be realistic to focus on all of them at once, but you can prioritize and tackle them one by one and create a timeline and an approach to each. Each one of us may be in situations where we'll have to make hard decisions, and there may be trade-offs. For example, it's critical that business leaders expand focus beyond profits only and to take into consideration the value frame, which has a far more long-term, broad focus by embracing the agenda of people, planet, and profits. This triple bottom line thinking, as opposed to one-dimensional profit-only focus. Establish your mission, vision, values, and metrics to promote this way of thinking and operating with your employees, your vendors, and even your customers. If you choose to focus on a goal number 5, for example, which is gender equality, it may be necessary to determine the degree of gender bias that you may have as a leader, as well as within your company and potentially your suppliers. You could, for example, put organizational structure in place at your company to support gender equality by evaluating your hiring practices, offer mentoring opportunities, and so on. You could even put a policy in place at your organization to evaluate your vendors with regards to the ratio of women that work in those companies, the percentage of women that are in leadership positions. Your company could give priority selection to work with vendors that demonstrate gender equality. Those are just a few ideas for you to think about. You can also apply some of the same type of evaluation and implementation with other goals as well. Some of these initiatives may take time to implement, but that's a trade-off to achieve long-term goals. Now, one thing to consider is that not all stakeholders will be on board to make these goals a priority. When, not if, I emphasize, when you make any of these goals a priority, it could be misunderstood by your employees, vendors, and or customers. For example, if you have investors that are focused on profits, they may question why you make certain purchases or work with certain vendors that do not appear to be as affordable as others. That is when you'll need to explain the broader vision and approach of your company to focus on sustainable development. Harvard Business Review reported that CEOs like Paul Pullman of Unilever told short-term investors who did not support his sustainable efforts to not invest in his company. Now that seems pretty bold, and it was certainly courageous. The same article also reported that companies have developed tools like environmental profit and loss, known as EP&L statements, and social return on investment, SROI, to capture a more complete picture of their business. Those are a few ways that you could consider making a change and having some impact. I acknowledge that the challenge I put forth to each of you today may seem daunting, overwhelming, and nearly impossible. Does that mean that we should not even attempt to make change? Does it mean that we are ultimately setting ourselves up for failure? No. As I said in the beginning, these goals are necessary. These goals are doable, but they do require change. I will end this presentation with a quote from Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream. Though she be but little, she is fierce. Each one of you watching today has full and untapped strength and resilience. You have the character and fortitude to make a difference in your business, in your community, and the world. Go forth and make change. Make a difference in the lives of individuals, organizations, and the world. Start today.